So something that is directly from the syllabus that you'll need to be able to do is describe the main features of international law developed from the International Bill of Rights. And that consists of these three different parts. So we've got the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. The good thing about those acronyms is it's pretty easy to remember them, since they are just the first letter of every word. So don't think that you need to remember everything, because if you're given that in a question, then you'll be able to just tell based on the letters there. So to start with, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it was written by representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds, which is definitely important because different cultures have different ideas of what's right and wrong, and also different knowledge of legal systems. So having that representation that's diverse is definitely important. So it sets out those fundamental rights that require protection, and there's a range of those. So we've got civil and political, and that can include privacy and life and liberty, and then also economic, social, and cultural. So social security, health, and education are examples there. And you can see that that is an old photo from back in the day when the declaration was first made. So quite interesting to see it on such a big piece of paper. Now, explain the difference between signing and ratifying a treaty, which we went through earlier. So give that one a go. Our next one was the ICCPR. So that declares that all people have a range of, you guessed it, civil and political rights. So it is one of the components of the Bill of Human Rights. It was adopted in 1966 and entered into force 10 years later in 76. And its main focus is basic human rights. So there is overlap between these. So you would have seen we just spoke about, for example, the right to life was in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so that obviously is very fundamental. So it does appear in multiple places, including here. Other things, fair trial and freedom from torture. So here it says most rights are not absolute and are subject to limitations for legitimate purposes. So that just means that that there are some exceptions, basically. So for the right to life, then there wouldn't be, I wouldn't have said exceptions to that. But when we get further into the lecture, we'll be talking about some implied rights in the Australian Constitution, and we'll be able to see a little bit more about how some rights are not always going to be able to be exercised, because there are exceptions. Our other one with our economic, social, and cultural rights covenant. So that is covering a pretty broad range of things, and I have got some examples there that you can see. So things that maybe are less obvious than the ones we've gone through so far. So not only the right to training, not only the right to education, but also the right to training. Things like protection of the family unit, adequate standard of living, all of those sorts of things are going to be social. We've got economic with employment, working conditions, and the right to form a union. And then cultural is right to take part in culture. So Australia ratified that in 1975, but it hasn't implemented all the provisions in domestic legislation yet.